that's supposed to exist. So supposedly we shouldn't have a database of flights. I can log on to loads of different weather satellite databases. The deal. You can do it yourself. So is there a database that I can log on to get this information? No information. So there is no information that they could point me to where they could tell me what flights have come over Derby at a given time. That information, to my knowledge, is not available. So anyone, and I had this actually the other day, I got an email from New Zealand from somebody saying, oh, you're putting disinformation out about chemtrails being chemtrails. I think you've been taken in by the chemies. This email said. This was from a guy called Ross Marsden in New Zealand. And I said to him, I sent him a message back saying, so you think that 42 planes coming over Derby in 2.5 hours is normal? And he said, and he said, yes, I do think it's normal. I said, well, how can you say that? You don't even live in this country, So where's your data? Give me a place where I can find what those flights were. Tell me what the flight numbers were, who the operators were. You give me that information, and I will take down my stuff about chemtrails. I'll know then that it's just ordinary air traffic. That information, to my knowledge, is not available. And I've seen flights going over at 15,000 feet, giving these trails out, which is way below the altitude that there should be persistent trails. Yeah. Way below. So ever since doing that report, which was about 6 months ago, I've got a bit more email about chemtrails. I've been on one US obscure talk show called True News. They rang me up and asked me to go on, and I spoke about that. I was then actually, while I was in Derby one time, I noticed they've got a big screen up in the centre of Derby now. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Which surprised me a bit.
They're doing the big wheel apparently as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd heard that. Yeah. So I looked on that and it said Video Nation. They got this Video Nation thing going, a BBC thing, and they were looking for films to be made about local issues. And they said, go onto the website, and if you want to make a film about a local issue, put it on there. So okay. So I came home, said I want to make a film about aircraft trails. Because of what I've been seeing in the sky, and just for the hell of it. And then a couple of weeks later, I got an email off a phone call, and it was a chap from the local BBC which is BBC Interactive. Chap called Gavin came to see me. I said, "Oh yeah, here's a video camera. You make a film about aircraft trails, and I'll come back in a week and pick the camera up." So that's what I did, and I shot about 45 minutes of footage. And I gave him a disc of pictures, the pictures of the grid that I mentioned. And I put all the footage of the stuff going over Derby, and various other bits and pieces of research that I put on there. And I gave him the camera back, and he made a 3-minute film from the stuff that I'd given him, and that got posted on the BBC website. Right. And I didn't really go into all the orgone stuff and all that stuff. I just basically asked the question: what are the trails? Why are they here? What's the reason for them? And so I was quite pleased about that. That actually somebody was sitting up and paying attention. Hadn't really had much feedback from that, but I didn't really expect to, because the Video Nation thing was very popular, I think, when it was on BBC Two years ago. I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago they had it on BBC Two. But now it's gone onto the internet, as you know, with the days of YouTube and Google Video, and maybe YouTube, of course. Anything like Video Nation isn't going to hold a candle for YouTube, so so that was that. And I'm just trying to think what happened next in the chemtrail story. But yeah, and then we had another big day on the 18th of October last year, when we had an enormous amount of spraying. It seems to be that something like about once every 10 weeks, something like you get a massive amount of spraying where you get the whole sky is virtually obliterated by trails. And I'd driven up, I was going to see some students, and I'd driven up from Derby up to Leeds, and there was a massive amount of spraying massive amount, and I got pictures driving up. You know, I was holding the camera out of the car while I was driving. And then other people in Leeds, or another guy in Leeds that I know who looks at chemtrail stuff, he sent me some good pictures. And then there was a couple of people down south, they sent me pictures. I've put this on a web page now on my website. And we also got the satellite pictures again. Because this particular satellite that I mentioned before, it doesn't appear to take photographs over England every day. It only seems to catch them certain days and certain times. It's not like a 24/7 coverage. So you do have to be lucky with the mega spray and the picture corresponding. On this day we got another good one. So again, we got pictures from all over the UK. We got the satellite pictures, you know. So we had another good sort of set of data to go with to people that think that this is just some kind of illusion. But on that very subject, is an illusion. What's it for? It's still an unknown. You know, I don't know what the answer to that is.
We haven't been able to somehow detect what is in the composition of these trails.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the key questions now. Clifford Carnicom has done quite a bit of study on that. If you go onto carnicom.com, his website, he's probably done the most study on trying to get samples of what these things are. And several people have spoken about elevated levels of barium and aluminium following heavy chemtrailing. Now, I haven't seen any studies in the UK, which, you know, not even independent studies, so I don't know. And I haven't really, off the top of my head, I don't know how Clifford Carnicom have been able to determine that the barium and aluminium has actually come from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, if he's I suppose if he's collected it in rainwater, then yes, I suppose it must have come from the sky. So maybe he's done it that way. But if it's come out of a river or something, then obviously it could have come from another source. So maybe he's done it with the rainwater.
But even that, though, is not. The rainwater could have come. Which way was the wind blowing when that rainwater came? You know, it could have come from a factory.
It could have come from yes, from some other atmospheric pollutant. So barium and aluminium seem to come up a lot.
Right.
Bromide. There's something with bromide in it. I'm trying to think of.
Is silver not in there too? I've read.
I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't. You know, I haven't read everything that's out there, so it's possible.
Would it be silver nitrate?
Silver nitrate is it used in developing photographs?
Right.
So we talked about the chemtrailing and the height at which planes travel. Or as I say, I'd contacted and asked for information about the height of these flights, or where these flights had come from, what flight they were, and got nowhere. I was then it was then suggested I contact the local airport, which is East Midlands, which is only, you can actually almost see it from just outside the house here. It's only about, as the crow flies, I think it's about 3 miles, something like that. And I contacted them, and they took ages for them to respond. It took about 2 or 3 months for them to respond. But they did eventually respond, and said that they weren't interested in any traffic which was above 15,000 feet. So, you know, when I asked for information about these flights over Derby, they said they didn't have any, and also they'd got this web track system, but that had only just come into use in about the last 6 months or something. And the web track system would allow people to to look at flights coming into the airport and find out when they were going to land and stuff like that. But I wrote back to this guy and says, well, you know, it doesn't really help me. You know, I mean, what are these trails? Still nobody's been able to tell me what they are. I think one of the difficulties in getting chemtrails exposed to people and getting whistleblowers to talk about them, it's similar to 9/11 in that people think they can't be fooled by such a thing. If it was such a big daily operation that somebody was spraying something in the atmosphere, they would know about it, they would have noticed it. But this, I think, is where you get subtle manipulation which goes on. One example I would suggest